very much for joining us at the Future Print Virtual Conference on packaging. And I'm very pleased to have with me today Steve Lakin of Bobst. Steve, hi to you.
Morning.
And we wanted to get together with Steve and do this as a virtual. Steve is in fact speaking at the live event on the 11th of November. He's doing a Tech 10, which just gives us a little bit of insight into what he's talking about. But we wanted to get a bit deeper into the detail. And Steve's going to just give us a presentation on label production from 1 to 1 million and give us a little bit of insight into what Bobst see as the major trends and how they're addressing them. So Steve, I'm going to kick this off by going straight over to you and letting you start your presentation. So over to you, Steve.
Thanks, Fraser. So thanks for giving me the opportunity to present to you today. And I'll go through talking about the Bobst vision for packaging and labels industry and go into some trends in the labels market and how Bobst is addressing the challenges faced by many converters. I'll then talk about our digital offerings, including the Master DM5, and go through some of the numbers and why this press is so cost effective. But first of all, I wanted to talk a little bit about Bobst vision for the future and something we call packaging production 4.0. Everything starts with brand owners' ideas through the entire production line. Data has become the most important element. It can be shared from machine to machine and from human to human, enabling brand owners, converters and packers and retailers to be more effective in maximising the consumer experience in a sustainable manner by connecting all the machines. You can build a system that visualises the entire production line and control and enable people to make decisions. This vision is pretty well advanced within Bobst, and the labels market is probably the most advanced from a digital perspective. But it relies on a cloud-based system, which will become the backbone, which will enable us to communicate with all the different stakeholders across the entire supply chain. And this is what we call Bobst Connect. So let's just look at some of the trends in the label industry. Food safety and brand protection are major requirements. The need for anti-counterfeiting and traceability are also required. People want to know where products come from. Packaging needs to reach all segments of society, taking almost any shape and size across multiple run lengths around the world. And colour consistency and control across a variety of substrates needs to be guaranteed to make sure the brand looks good across the globe. And sustainability, packaging production needs to reduce its carbon footprint and produce much less waste across the entire supply chain using thinner and more sustainable substrates that are easily recycled and can be used again and again. And there is also the need for brands to reach customers faster. The product lifetime is becoming shorter and shorter from the product design to the consumer, and the supply chain has to be much more agile. So let's just look at some of the trends in the labels market. The world's changing, the industry is having to change fast too. Indirect factors such as national, regional and global economies, changes in lifestyle, demographic changes, and due to factors such as technical innovation in printing techniques, labeling, and so on. All these changes have been probably accelerated by COVID-19, which I'll come on to a little bit more in a minute. But starting from the main influence, the supply chain, is the customer, who is continually changing when he sees the product and the value that he perceives from products, starting from the packaging. So this influences the way the product is designed, packed and distributed. And in this slide, you'll see some of the major trends that we've identified. We did a survey recently, and most brands see a massive proliferation in products. There's something like 70% of all the products that you see on the shelf are going to change. So if you actually look at the product lifestyle, it's getting shorter. this trend has accelerated thanks to e-commerce, where customers and consumers are focused not only on one-off purchases like books, gifts and clothing, but also more and more a full basket of purchases, including consumables, groceries. And so what does this mean for the industry? It means that we've got to produce jobs much faster and become much more agile. And you can see here, you know, back in the 80s, you know, a product remained the same for 2.25 years, and you look today and it's just over half a year. There's also a trend in the market to what we call premiumized products. And this gives the customer perceived value, and embellishment is being used more and more with effects such as hot foil, cold foil, tactile varnishes. And brand owners are also demanding much greater colour consistencies, so the product looks the same in just about any country that it's sold. And this gives the consumer a feeling of that the product is worth paying a little bit extra for. So let's just look at the impact of COVID-19. You know, the globalization of brands has been affected by people buying locally. Online shopping has accelerated massively, and the food and pharmaceutical demand has increased as people stayed at home. And sustainability and recyclability is becoming the #1 topic, which it often influences purchasing decisions. It also affects how products are designed, labelled, packed and distributed. And substrate suppliers have had to offer different alternatives that are more recyclable or compostable. And traceability is now becoming really important. People want to know where the food is coming from. But let's just look at our solution. We've been selling a digital inkjet press called the LB702 for a while now, and it's a 1200 by 1200 dpi inkjet label press that has 7 colours, prints at around 100 meters a minute. But there's no converting. You know, you have to use offline converting, and a lot of people are telling us that, you know, they really wanted a one-man solution that could cover that gap between maybe the digital toner press and flexo. So we looked at combining the LB702 with our best-selling Digiflexo machine called the Master M5. This press is extremely automated. It's got automatic pressure control, automatic register. So we actually combined the two, and we called it the Bobst Master DM5, where we, again, took the best of digital and the best of flexo. We brought the two together into this very compact package called the Master DM5. But, you know, people want a modular machine. So you can start off with a fairly basic configuration. And as your job basket changes, you can add different modules, such as a DLAM RELAM unit for printing on the adhesive. You might want to add cold foiling for embellishment. You might want to cold foil before or after the digital engine. So we've designed it with a rail, so you can move all these different ancillaries across the rail. We can laminate. We can also use the lamination station to add in a secondary web as well for multi-layer labels. And it's all incorporated together in a very compact unit with a semi-rotary die cutting system, which automatically changes on the fly, as well as having the option of an inspection unit. So you make sure that there's absolutely no defects within the roll. So this is just an idea of some different types of labels that people are doing on the DM5. Depending on the configuration, you can pretty much do anything. So if you look on the top left, we've got a very simple label with a digital print varnish die cut. Bottom left, we've got a multi-process label where we've actually introduced a cold foil, a matte varnish. We've increased, this is incorporating a digital white and then a gloss varnish. On the top right, we tried to address the need for the ability to print much longer run lengths with this particular press, because digital inks are a lot more expensive than flexo ink. So if we can replace some of the spot colours, such as a white or a very heavy spot colour with a flexo white, it means that we can take the break-even point much, much higher. You know, a lot of people are asking to have the ability to print up to 15,000 linear meters. And in the bottom right, this is where you've got the same die cut, but lots of different SKUs. And all this can be addressed using the one machine. And if you look here, we can see that, you know, this machine is not just designed for short and medium run lengths. It can actually do some quite long lengths. We know people that are printing up to 15,000 linear meters on this machine with really good quality at 100 meters a minute. It's 1200 DPI. It's using yellow, magenta, cyan, black, orange, violet, and white. So we can address 85 to 90% of the Pantone book, and without having to mix spot colours or special inks. But let's talk some numbers. Here's a job where we've actually got 3 SKUs. We've had to print on the adhesive. We've also got a varnish. Now, to do this using an offline type system, there's multiple processes, costs a lot to do it, not very easy. So we wanted to be able to do this all in line, all on the one machine. And so if we look here, obviously there's quite a lot of information in this slide, but one thing that I want you to take away from here is where the massive saving is in terms of wastage. Like if we were to do that job using the conventional flexo press, we're going to be wasting at least 450 linear meters of substrate, setting everything up. You've got to mix spot colors. You've got to have plates made. You've got make ready time. But if you look at the right-hand side, you can see there's a massive saving in terms of time, setup wastage for this particular job. And it's all done with one man, one user interface on the Master DM5. A lot of people associate digital for just short run length, but you know, with Flexo, you've got high initial startup costs, but as the run length increases, it becomes more cost effective. Now, what we've tried to do here is bring a label press to market where we can address both short runs and long runs with the one machine. So you can see here that the Master DM5 is actually cost effective right from the very short run lengths right up to, as you can see here, 15,000 linear meters. But there's also a need for what we call late stage customization. And this again is the combination of digital and flexo. So in the background here, you know, all this has been printed using conventional flexo, but then in the middle, you can see we can introduce different images. This could be used for things like special promotions, 2 for the price of 1 offers, whatever, right at the very last minute before you're delivering the product to the retailer. So let's just summarize what I've discussed today. We all know run lengths are reducing and the lifetime of a product continues to decline. This means there will be less longer runs and much, much shorter runs. We saw the amount of SKUs that are going to change. 78% of all the stuff that you see on the shelf is going to change very fast. There's a need to bridge the gap between digital and flexo because there's a lot of toner presses out there that are printing 20, 30 meters a minute. And then you've got flexo that's capable of printing 200 meters a minute. And there's this big gap in the middle for something that gives you the best of both worlds. And again, it's a modular press that can be operated by one person with the same user interface. Embellishment will increase to reflect the high value of a particular product, and this is going to increase. And label converters will need to optimize the production floor so they have the right tool for the right job across multiple processes to produce just about any label that they're asked to produce. We all know that there's a massive shortage of skilled printers in our industry, and one of the things that Bobst has tried to do is make our presses really easy to operate. So we tried to de-skill the flexo side of it with digiflexo, with cameras that do the setup, do the register, do the pressure control, and it will enable people to bring new talent into the market to print really complex labels with the combination of both digital and flexo. And one of the biggest challenges, we need to reduce the amount of waste. At the moment, there's still massive waste in the industry for setup. You know, some people are wasting thousands of linear meters, which go straight in the skip. And so, you know, we need to reduce waste, improve productivity, and have the best tool for the job. And that's what we've got with the Master DM5. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you, Steve. That's very, very useful. Give us a little bit of insight. Got a couple of questions just to ask you. I mean, the point you make a couple of the key kind of trends that are occurring. One is recruitment and retention and staffing and that whole kind of historic technical ability of people. Obviously, with COVID, people have been retiring, so you've kind of lost that throughput. So you're seeing this very much as a solution that makes it much more cost effective in terms of the resourcing involved, the skilling involved. How difficult is it to train someone to use this kind of technology?
Well, it's really easy for this technology because we've sort of de-skilled it. We've taken all, you know, like if you go to the average label printer, you know, they've got guys there that are in the 50s that are the best label guys, and these guys are coming up for retirement. And they're not being replaced. You know, young people aren't coming into the industry. And so these older guys that have got all the knowledge, these are going to be gone in the next 10 years. So we've got to address this. It's one of the biggest challenges that we've got in our industry. And we're heading for a real crisis if we don't do something about it. So, you know, we're trying to make the presses much easier to operate with less skilled staff. And, you know, this is one of the key things I find in our industry when I go around to visit customers. You look around a production floor and, you know, it's a bunch of old guys like me. You know, it's not good.
Tell me, I mean, obviously, Bobst have kind of moved into this area of digital production here. This is really interesting because it's kind of an area that's a development for you guys. How good is this technology?
Well, you know, one of the things that we did is that we developed our own printhead cluster technology because we looked at what other printheads were available and we wanted to be able to control the printhead ourselves so we could print on different substrates. We can use it for different applications, and you can't do that if you're using a third-party printhead. So we basically took the Fuji Samba slice, built everything behind that head ourselves, so all the software, all the degassing, the waveforms, everything is all developed by Bob. So we now, you know, the quality that you can get from inkjet 1200 by 1200 DPI is fantastic. And you know, a lot of people look at toner technology as the de facto standard in digital label production, and we are pretty much there. We match that sort of offset type quality now, and so, you know, with the 5th generation printheads that are available now, that, you know, quality is not compromised anymore. It's superb.
And it gives you greater flexibility, as you pointed out, doesn't it? It gives you that option to play around with it and to late stage customize, exactly as you said.
Yeah, and this cluster technology, you know, obviously I mentioned earlier that the most advanced digital technology at the moment is in our industry is with labels, but it's going to affect other industries. It's going to go into the corrugated world. It's going to go into flexible packaging. It's going to go into all aspects because run lengths get shorter and shorter and shorter.
Sure.
And we needed a technology that's going to enable us to develop into those sort of markets and that's scalable and affordable. And and this is exactly what we've done with the cluster technology.
You mentioned the word affordable. So tell me a little bit about what kind of costs are involved for someone to use this technology.
Well, we're looking around about, you know, obviously the inkjet head is a fairly expensive part of a machine, but, you know, if you're looking at a Master DM5 with twin flexo before, twin flexo after, DLAM relam unit, cold foiling, die cutting. You're looking around 1.3, 1.4 million euros, something like that.
But that gives you loads of scope, doesn't it? It gives you loads of scope, as you said, for different technologies in there within the digital frame.
Yeah, and you don't have to start with that configuration. You can start off with a really basic machine with just maybe 1 or 2 flexo units, and then build.
Yeah,
because it's a modular system, and it can grow with your your
needs. Yeah, and I guess it's also very much about a product that's adapted for the future, if that makes sense, or built for the future.
Exactly, because we looked at the market and we saw this massive gap in the middle for some people call it a hybrid. Like there are other hybrids on there in the market, but you're using third party converting units so you have 2 user interface, one for the converting unit, one for the digital engine. Nothing talks to each other.
Yeah.
If something goes wrong, you've got 2 phone calls to make. Under the Bobst banner, you've got 1 phone call, 1 support structure, and we support everything from start to finish.
Yeah, brilliant. Steve, that's been really interesting. Thank you very much for that. Let's give us a lot of insight into the way you're approaching things. As you saw on the last slide, there's Steve's details, so that if you want to get in contact with him, as I said, he'll be speaking at the live event, and we've just given you a little bit more information here for the virtual. And it's been an absolute pleasure to see your presentation. So thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. Anytime.